And on with the show. So if NAHA is the Oscars of hair, Charlie, our next guest in the series, well, I would say Charlie is the Sally Field of the industry. And before I get into Charlie, remember, I love your questions. So if you have any questions whatsoever, make sure you ask them. So here, Charlie, and let's not forget, he was also on Sheer Genius, which everybody loves. We love this man. Can't wait to see what he does next. Without further ado, help me welcome Charlie Price, ladies and gentlemen. And I added you, Charlie, so I hope you saw that, see that, saw that. I'll add you again. Here he is. Drum roll, please. Woo. Send him your hearts. Send him your hearts. We love your hearts. Hi, Charlie.
Hello.
It's so good to be chatting with you again.
Oh, I love it. Gives me something to do.
How are you holding up in the Colorado area?
Oh, good. It's really beautiful. The weather is amazing. I love spending all this time getting my house in order, being able to think, not worrying about every little project. So I'm doing well. I just, cry about money all the time. No, I'm not crying.
That's a song we're all singing, by the way.
Ulcer. How about ulcer?
And it's a tradition with anything I host for PBA, or if you come on my show at Living Proof, I match your drink. So I am having a red wine today. I don't endorse any wine, but if you love reds, Four Graces is amazing. Okay, Charlie, let's get right into it because we know you're like famous. What are you doing right now to stay creative? It sounds like you're staying clean and working on your house, but what are you doing to stay creative?
I'm drawing. I love drawing. And, going back and looking at my archives of all my old photo shoots, kind of doing my own private retrospective, kind of just taking stock of what I've already done. And then I always have journals, and I scour the internet and keep albums in my phone of things that I like and plan ideas for the future. I might do a shoot with my mannequin. I really haven't had a ton of time because I've had to close down the studio and get the salon in order. So I'm just kind of starting to scratch the surface of getting creative again.
I mean, I was thinking about that. Do you think somebody could do, I mean, it's all about execution, right? With a competitive shoot. I mean, I don't want you to have to give away your plan, but so you're thinking it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just doing it myself with my phone for like my Instagram or something. I haven't seen a lot of that. I've seen a little bit of it, and what I have seen I've liked. So why not?
Why not? So we know what you're doing to stay creative, and it seems like you'll be able to get back to work soon, right? Your state has a pretty aggressive get back more quickly plan, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. It's like a week and a half that we'll be back to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got clients scheduled. It's weird for me because I don't work behind the chair that much, and so I'm trying to get my clients to come in instead of some people are chasing them away. I'm like, do you want to come back? Because I have all my side jobs are done. There's nothing going. There's no hair shows. There's no nothing. So, we had 2 gigs in May, and I had a gig here in Denver because I do fashion shows as well, organized fashion. So I've had like 4 gigs canceled for May. So I'm like, clients, let's line them up.
I know, and I'm so sorry. Even though Sweden never really closed, they had to cancel that event, but we were supposed to be on stage together in Sweden.
No,
so
it's gonna be
twice, an editorial class in New York.
Yes.
New York, I get both of them, but trust me, we will work together soon. I believe it was Anna asked how you're staying creative. It's similar to our first question, but did you have anything to add to that, Charlie?
I'm drawing. I'll answer the question the way I did before. I'm drawing. I got out my art pads and started just looking at classical sculptures and figure drawing and stuff. And it's just something that I'd never have time to do that I always say I'm going to do. I'm trying to do things that I want to do but never get around to.
Yeah, that's good message. So we want to dig right in. I would say all the NAHA lives are very useful, very informative, but I feel like most of your questions out there and on our website come and really deal with what your topic is, which is like building the team, building it from start to finish. We had some creative stories last week. We had what NAHA can bring to your life from Chelsea Von James, and she adores you, by the way.
I love it.
But let's start at the very beginning, Charlie. What is the very first thing you need to do? You're interested in NAHA, and by the way, folks, every topic we cover, we're going to do categories and photographers and wardrobe and model, and we're going to meticulously list everything. We're going to give you, if you got money, if you have a little money, and if you have no money, as options for each, because nobody can do that like Charlie. So let's start. What's first, Charlie? What is the first thing you do? I want to enter. What happens first?
There's three things, and whatever order you want to do these in. I always keep journals, physical journals of things that I like. Usually for me, that's whether it's hair photos from trade magazines or fashion magazines. And I keep them all year. And I also put them in my phone. And what I do is when I'm ready to start planning a shoot, or many shoots, because I usually shoot over the summer and do lots of shoots. I'll do it all in 2 weeks or over a 3-month period or something. And so what I do is I throw them all out. You can do this digitally, but I like to do it where I throw the pieces of paper on the floor, and then I start to do like an actual storyboard. Like, these are the photographs I like, the style of photography. This is the makeup I like. This is the type of model I want. This is the hair looks that I like or I'm drawn to, and what have you, clothing, wardrobe. And then when you do that and you have categories and you start to put them under their category, stories will reveal themselves and collections will reveal themselves. So that's a really great exercise to do with a team if you're worried about power struggles, or there's no way for anyone to take over if you do that together and everyone takes a turn. That's a great exercise to do with a salon. Because when you ask people at the salon, a lot of times they don't have any ideas. They're like, I don't know, I want to do a shoot, but I don't know what it is. Or they're scared, or they're nervous about maybe saying what they'd like. Or there's always one person that takes over, like me. So journaling and having creative ideas all year long. So then another one would be sit with yourself, don't have your spouse. Sit by yourself and write a little journal of, number one, what am I about? Am I a wedding hairstylist? Am I a technical cutter? Am I an updo specialist? Am I, balayage? Am I avant-garde color? Am I a wig maker? Am I an avant-garde? And then that will kind of help you decide what kind of shoot you're going to do. And then after that, why am I doing the shoot? Once I've decided what my brand is, what do I want to do with that if I win? What do I want to do with it if I don't win? Why am I doing the shoot? What do I expect out of doing a shoot? And I think that's an important question to ask yourself, because a lot of people have even won and then they're like, oh my God, I don't know what's supposed to happen. I thought, that J-Lo was going to come pick me up in her private jet and I was going to be at the Oscar. I don't know. People just I don't know what they want, sometimes.
Yeah.
So, it's like, well, what did you think was going to happen, or what do you want to happen? Because ultimately it's about marketing yourself. And if you don't know who you are and what you want, then no one can market you anyway. So figure out who you are and why you're doing it, what you want out of it. And then third, what category would you enter to feed the marketing that you need for your brand? Like if I'm a wedding hairdresser, maybe I don't want to do avant-garde. If I'm a colorist, maybe I don't want to do hairstyling. If I only do updos, I probably shouldn't enter haircutting, unless you do both. I mean, I love entering everything, so I'm not saying don't. But remember that doing a shoot for a hairdresser is ultimately about marketing, whether it's on your social media, whether it's to get published, whether it's to attract yourself to a salon you'd like to work at, or a manufacturer you want to work, whatever your agenda is, tailor that to your agenda.
Right. Picking the category, because there are so many. Let's talk about some categories and Charlie, you are a longtime committee member and really an active participant and been so helpful in so many areas. Can you explain the difference between avant-garde and fantasy? And we're not trying to offend any fantasy person, but we often get stuck in this quagmire in judging, when you agree, of what
Yeah.
is fantasy and what is avant-garde.
Well, first of all, they're both great. So there's not diminishing one over the other. But avant-garde to me, the definition of the word is something that you can't wear on the street. It's something that's outrageous, over the top, like the ultimate expression of artistry. It's unusual, something that's very unusual. Fantasy could be completely accessible. Like a fantasy hairdo could be a sexy elf, or it's almost more costumey, like more of like Comic Con is more like fantasy to me.
Okay.
It could go in lots of, and it could be highbrow fantasy or lowbrow fantasy, fetish, sexy fantasy, whatever. Like anime can be very fantasy. It
Right.
could also be avant-garde, but I mean, anime would be an example of what everybody, like just think of Comic Con for fantasy.
Okay.
Or I'm a tree. I'm a tree,
Okay.
or I'm a flower, or I'm whatever. That's sometimes, and there can be crossover. That's why people get confused.
Yeah, that's where it
Flower
gets
could
tricky.
be, flower theme could be fantasy, or it could be avant-garde, depending on how you execute it. But just think about avant-garde as unusual, ultimate expression of art, and then something that you would not be able to wear on the street. It's, it could be like so tall you can't get in the car. It doesn't have to be realistic in terms
Right.
of, it doesn't have to be practical at all.
Okay. I love that. And so now we have the idea, and now we know where it fits within the realm of competitive, something like NAHA. By the way, for the first year ever, you can enter in Contessa and NAHA and anywhere you want with the same work. So we have lifted that restriction. So you're going to get, yay, you're going to get more bang out of your buck. We're the Oscars of hair. We're not afraid of any other awards. So go out and win your Emmys and your Golden Globes and whatever else, SAG Awards. We are happy. The more the merrier for your winning collection. Next is photographer, right? I mean, is that a high priority for you? Is that what you would do next? And let's talk about high end, mid range, and zero cash, which
Right.
a lot can relate to.
Photographer to me is the most important thing besides the hairdresser themselves. And what I always say about choosing a photographer is, you need to find someone that loves shooting beauty, number one. You can find it amazing, talented photographers that do beautiful, beautiful photos that are not fashion and are not beauty, even if they have figures in them. Like wedding photographers sometimes are terrible for NAHA. They might be an obvious way to go. And I'm not saying there are some wedding photographers that would be amazing for NAHA. If they don't understand beauty and fashion and the competition even more so, they're not a good fit. They have to, and if they are new to it, they have to be open to wanting to understand the competition, researching and looking into it and being open. But I think the very best photographers to use are people that are already out there in the world winning awards. Because like, for instance, for many years, like in the 90s and early 2000s, I shot with a lot of fashion and beauty photographers in New York that I met through modeling agencies. Then I wasn't winning or getting placed in NAHA at all because it just didn't sort of lend itself to what NAHA judges were looking for. And I did win once. My first award was with a photographer from New York, but once I started shooting with Babek, I got nominations right away the first year. Same with if you work for someone like a Richard Monsieur, or if you work with, John Rawson, we work with a lot. There's R.S. Sassoonian. There's a whole list of regular.
And we'll
James
list all of
Cartwright,
these
yeah,
in our
Cartwright is
resources
up
page.
there. A lot of times the people that win awards, Keith Bryce, there's a lot, he's doing hair now, but he was started as a photographer. So there's lots of these people that you see their names over and over again. So the thing that I think is good about that is that they understand and are interested and care about you winning for themselves too, because it's kind of the niche that they do. Like John Rawson, the thing I love about John Rawson above all the others, and I love them all. I've done great shoots with a lot of, I haven't worked with everybody, but the ones that I've worked with, like Babak is wonderful and all that. But I love working with John Rawson because he's a hairstylist. And he'll be like, he's English, so automatically I think he's cooler. And he's always like, Charlie, it's just not beautiful. It's not beautiful. And so he'll just like, rip me to shreds. But I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's ugly. Yeah, let's change it. you know, and he's not afraid. So, you know, I think if a hairdresser tells you something, you might listen more than you would. You know, sometimes they'll just ask you. Like if they're not a hairdresser, they'll be like, well, what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm asking you because you're the photographer. And so there are people that are, you know, not hairdressers that are still amazing at it and win all the time. But I love the added bonus of if they're a hairdresser, even greater.
Okay, so the high end, let's talk turkey.
Yeah.
What are we looking at financially to get the equivalent of a John or a Babak and others?
Well, I don't want to talk specific dollars, but it's in
Price
thousands and
range?
thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Thousands?
Yeah, thousands. And I think the reason I don't want to say a specific number is because they change their prices and there's packages. Like if we're shooting all week, you know, and people would like come to our studio and we're all compacting in Denver, it might be slightly less than if it's just one shoot, one city. You know what I'm saying? I can't quote. But there's also other photographers that I shoot with in Denver, and you're going to find these people all over also, like David Rasa, who I work with all the time, and we shoot all over the world together. He would be a tier down. It's still thousands of dollars, but he's not charging you, you know, John Rawson prices, or Melanie Watson. There's people like this in every city that you'll see. Some of these guys in Texas and ladies in Texas are using this one, and somebody in California is using that one, like a Nick Berardi and stuff. You know, I don't know how much he charges, so I don't know what category to put him in. But there's lots of people that are that, you know, in your town that work with the models, work with the local magazines. They're the local fashion photographers. So I think that if you're doing it the first time, I don't know. If you're just starting in shoots, I wouldn't go right to the top level right away necessarily. I mean, if you're an educator and you're doing a lot of shows and you're getting your name is out there a lot, then maybe you could. But if you're someone brand new out of the shooting, I would go with somebody that maybe you're friends with or develop a relationship, shooting test shooting and doing things in your town first. And then move into spending more money later. I did a shoot that you really liked last year that I did with my phone.
I love that. Also,
I entered it and it did not get through, but I loved the shoot. It wasn't very wild. It was very commercial. So
I loved it. It was like, it had a little bit of an American Apparel kind of vibe to it, but it was so good.
And it was just sunlight coming through the window. No lighting.
Amika's watching. So I hey to Kate. So many talented photographers where they are. I think they're like in Brooklyn or something, looking to break through. You know, anything you can recommend for discovering that kind of talent. I feel like we're in the mid-range now, right? Like there are superstars, you know who they are. If you've got thousands and you're ready to commit, do that. If you don't have the thousands, which none of us do, especially in these times
right now,
what are some things you can do to find a talented mid-range who's not, you know, going to mess up your vision?
Call the agencies, modeling agencies in your city. Just start looking hashtags up. Photographer Denver, photographer Austin, Texas, photographer Seattle, photographer Brooklyn, wherever you want to be, and they're out there.
Yeah,
they're definitely.
Robert Bushy is asking that the texture category. Hi, Robert. We know.
Why are you asking a question? You already know everything, Robert.
You know, he said texture used to be about wearable hair, and not so now. Charlie, I know texture is near and dear to your heart. Would you like to comment on this?
We have only changed the rules in terms of trying to refine the scope of it. Like for instance, the braiding was a thing. Like we believe on the committee that a braid is a hairstyling technique. You could have it in texture, but it shouldn't be texture shouldn't be an entirely braided hairdo. So as to his question about can it be avant-garde, there's a lot of things in texture that have blurred the line between texture and avant-garde. So I believe that we have committed to you cannot enter avant-garde and texture with the same photo. And second of all, what we're doing for this year for the rules is that we are making sure that everyone has to enter a before photo. Now you can still use a wig, but you have to show us the wig first. And then now I should say if I enter texture, I have to do the same thing and I would not be a judge. So there's that. um, obviously. So you have to enter a before photo of the model or the wig. You have to enter then your the final look, but your unedited photo, and then the final photo that is the retouched image. I personally agree with Robert in that I like it to be the natural hair, because I think when you start doing wigs and getting crazy and avant-garde, that does blur that line. Like this last entry that I did for texture didn't get me through. It was one of my most, favorite things I posted on Instagram last year. But I took 3 girls, Asian girl, black girl, white girl, and I worked on their natural hair, no wig pieces, and I just did different texture sets on their hair. I spent about 3 hours setting each one, and then we did kind of like an old Italian Renaissance thing, and it was just about being pretty and having texture in the hair, not about trying to be, I guess the word would be innovative. Now, that doesn't mean you can't blur the line to going more towards an avant-garde, but just think about it's not so much, it's a texture is about the texture.
Yeah.
So it's not about creating a 3-foot shape necessarily. I'm not saying you can't win, you can. Because hairdressers, we try to create these rules and then people will push it as far as they absolutely can.
Yeah.
So you guys should hear the conversations that we have behind the scenes on all this to try to control we want to keep it coherent. The competition needs to be coherent. And I feel like that's what we're always trying to do on the committee is hash it out and think, because we're all hairdressers, think about how everybody entering is thinking.
How we can get it there. So lots of love from River. Sorry, I have contacts in, which means I'm legally blind. But then you don't see my ring light and my glasses. Charlie, we have a question about Photoshop, but I'm gonna table that, Anna, until we get into post-production cost. Let's keep it moving, Charlie. Next, you wanted to talk about wardrobe because that's the next step you like to take. Talk to us about that.
Well, for me, when I'm formulating my idea, clothing is such a huge part of it. Whether it's, like I said, trying to recreate a Renaissance gown, which we did with fabric, or trying to just work with, a white button-up shirt or naked skin, whatever. I mean, whatever that is such an important part of that. So if you do have wardrobe, I would suggest doing definitely be by yourself, start photographing things, put together your story together on a rack in your house or in your salon or in your studio, and then photograph these things with your camera phone, and look at them and see how they photograph and how they're laying, and then get the models before the shoot and fit them for sure. And take pictures with your phone and see how things lay. Because you might think something's going to be amazing and you might even know your model. And then you put it on and you're like, oh my God, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. You don't want to be having that on hour 7 of your shoot.
Especially, that's time is money.
Have someone there. Well, let me stop on that for a second. Also have plan B and plan C. When I would work with Babak, he was very into wardrobe. And John is too. And we can, have an idea and you get the first model dressed and they're like, this concept doesn't work. So you cannot just have nothing. So when I'm working with a photographer like a Richard or a John or a Babak, what I will do is have plan A, B, C, and D. So that I'm like, I got to have all this backup if it doesn't work, because you might also get 3, you're doing a shoot with 5 looks and you might get to number 3 and it just does not happen for that. It's the model's body, the clothes you don't have work with her body, or it just isn't feeling right. You might just not really have enough clothing options. And so one shoot that I did with Babak, everything was a home run except for one look. And I literally had to put 10 different things on her. She's one of my favorite models, a professional model, and we just could not get it to work. I finally ended up putting like clear vinyl pants on her, like a shrug coat. And we clamped it, and it finally worked. But I was like ready to cry, and I love doing shoots. So for me to get that discouraged, and he's just like, no, I hate that outfit. No. And he was right. I mean, he wasn't wrong. And we ultimately got it. So when you're doing, another thing I would say is you can't do everything on set. So if you're going to have wardrobe, if you can't afford a stylist, get a friend, a relative, someone that is very patient, very doesn't need a lot of attention, and have that person be there to dress the models, steam the wardrobe, be there with a clamp, be there.
Stylist, if budget permits.
There's two things about a wardrobe stylist. If you have a friend that's a stylist, I've only used wardrobe stylists a few times. And one of the reasons is money, also because I enjoy doing it myself. I love to do it myself. It is a luxury to have a fashion stylist, though, because they can pull different merchandise than we might be able to. But the thing is, if say a fashion stylist, their fee for the day is, I've seen them anywhere, they're usually at least, I would say, $300 to $500 a day. And then they can go all the way up to the end of the thousands, depending on the career level of that stylist. Yeah. So then they're going to want you to either pay for clothes, put them on your charge, return them, all of those things. So, you know, you got to plan on money for that. A stylist is expensive.
Yeah.
Even if they only charge you $500, you still have to have money for the clothes.
Yeah. And I would. And on shoots, I agree with you, Charlie. I think you could get an assistant who might do it to build their book, but generally you're looking 800 to a couple 3,000 for someone to dress your shoot and to actually bring you clothes, which is like a gift from God, because it goes from you're running to H&M to get an undergarment to like, yes, no, gross, love it. I mean, there's something to be said. If you're not a fashionista with the clothing, I would say let an expert handle that and focus on the hair. Would you agree with that?
Well, it goes back to, again, you just can't split your attention. There aren't that many people that can do the hair, the makeup, the art direction, the wardrobe, you know, putting lotion on the legs or the hands, doing the nails, all these things. So you have to kind of take care of yourself, because one of the things when I'm shooting for myself, I really like to have a team in place so that I can focus on the hair. Now, when I help other people doing the shoots, I can manage a lot of stuff for people because I enjoy it. I love worrying about all the little details on the shoot. Like when I was helping my friend Katie Nielsen on her shoot last year, we had burlap for the background, and I'm like steaming the burlap, I'm sewing clothes together, and then I'm working with the makeup artist. I love directing and helping achieve the vision for someone else. And I would suggest that help each other.
Oh,
if you guys get together and do a group of 3, then you'll be like, okay, I'll be a team member for you, and then you guys be a team member for me, and then we're all invested and vested in each other's success. But it's also just fun, and it gives you ideas. You see different ways the hairdressers approach things, and to me, it's just fun. Yeah. And I don't have to worry about the hair. I can really, you know, it's almost like an exercise. Well, like you learn about the clothing and posing and the nails and all these different things that you don't have to worry about doing the hair because it's not your shoot. So I think it's valuable for hairdressers to help each other. It'll make you a better hairdresser in the end.
Yeah. And so we'll, if somebody can write Salta's question into the question box, I'll get to it at the end. I want to keep flowing with specifically how to produce the shoot and not get too into the rules right now. But so what comes first, makeup or models in planning and booking?
Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, makeup, I always have a concept for the makeup before I book models. So I guess it's sort of a chicken and the egg. You could do it both ways. If you're like, if I want this really specific makeup look, I might book models for that. But the hair is the lead, so usually I will, makeup is secondary to me. It's the hair, and then the model that has the hair, and then I design the makeup after that. Then
you assign the makeup. So what are some resources for finding models? Let's assume everybody's on a pretty tight budget right now. I think most of us are.
Yes. What I always say, the way to find the girls that'll work for free or for trade or for a little bit of money is to just go and look whatever city you work in. I always say Denver first because I live in Denver. LA model, Phoenix model, whatever, and find an independent that's not with an agency, and they will usually be open. Newer models, younger girls are definitely the ones you want, because you know, I love using models that are older, but they don't definitely necessarily the most patient for an 8-hour session and with crazy hair, whereas a teenager or a late teen, early 20s might be someone that would sit there with you for 8 hours, or come for a practice session, come for a fitting, because you got to pay the model. If you're going in the agency, you have to pay them for the fittings and all of that. Pay them for the prep day and for the shoot. Usage becomes an issue. So some of the models that I love the most are brand new people that are just trying to break into being a model. And Everytown USA and Everytown whatever country, Everytown Canada, has that wild girl that loves a crazy haircut. And like, look through your social media feed and just say, do you want to do a shoot? I've got $100. I've got $75. It's going to be free, but I'll give you product, whatever. They'll do it because they want their hair done. And they usually, these girls that want these hairstyles don't have the money to pay for that anyway.
What often it shows, I want a good head of hair, but I want, you know, for some looks, I want an alien positioning of eyes and a long neck with a narrow chin. Do you have any do's and don'ts in model selection that you found over the years, that although she's incredible looking, maybe that shape of face isn't working for this type of photography?
Well, what I found and generally works the best is models with fine, and I'm talking any ethnicity, whatever color she is, whatever race she is, this still holds true. Thinner features, and I don't mean necessarily thin girls, but more refined, thin bone structure. One of my very favorite models for shooting hair is a plus size model, but her face is so angular. She has a really long neck. And she's like, you know, she's like a size 10. I don't know if that's technically plus size, but she's not a size 4, size 2 model. This girl, I always try to have her whenever she's in town, because she loves crazy hair, and she's got this certain bone structure. I think you need that kind of streamlined bone structure. Because it just lends itself to beauty and hair. Strong bones. It's usually not soft features on round faces, but now every time I'll say that, I'll find a girl with a round face, the soft features, that I think is amazing. But generally, long necks and streamlined features are the best. But remember, like what I said, the weight of the model doesn't matter. It could be a plus size model, but she has an amazing beauty face. There's those girls out there. She's got a big booty and big boobies, but that face. Well, I love big butts and big boobs, so I'm not saying that. But you know, just listen to what I'm saying about, like, if you're just for beauty, they could have the most great haircut face or something. There's those girls out there all the time, and they're great to have for these competitions too, because a lot of people don't understand how to work with those girls. Go Get Pretty literally typed that as you were saying it, so I think he answered your question. What was it? It was basically, do you think the size of a model matters, which you covered. I mean, I totally agree with you. Listen, you know what? I always hesitate to tell people to look too closely. What I see happening is people only do what they think is going to win based on what has won in the past. And that is not a safe bet, because say everything was a white background one year, and then you're like, oh, well, I have to do white background. Then the next year, everything's going to be a black background or a busy background. So don't think like that. Think about what you want to do, what models you want to portray and present, and do that. And if it wins, it wins. It doesn't, it doesn't, because there's no formula. I agree. And it's totally blind. We don't know who anybody is. Do you work with assistants? We talked about assisting the wardrobe. What about hair assistants? Is this something you believe in? I've had people say it's not really your work if an assistant's doing all the setting and so forth. I know from doing big shows with, you know, I had 65 models one year at NAHA. I get that I can't do every head, or we would be there, we'd still be there from a show in 2018. Right.
So, so where are you on assistants?
We all know hairdressers that let other people do their work, and you know that's another conversation, and that's on their, you know, conscience. But for me, I'm fine working with an assistant because it's my vision. I'm directing it, and once I get it on set, it's mine. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna tear it up and change it and do whatever and comb it 1,000 ways. So I'm not really bothered so much by that. And I think what I like to have is the mix of people who have little experience and are that just there to hold things and help and clean up and absorb.
Yeah.
I'll still make them work though. They'll still do everything with me. And then I'd like to have seasoned people there to help me to make decisions, bounce ideas off of. But then there's shoots where I have no one, like that texture shoot I was talking about, where I set each girl's hair for 3 hours. I had nobody because I'm like, I don't want to babysit. I don't want to talk to anybody. If I have a mood swing, I don't want to have somebody ask me if I want to eat right then because I'll bite their breath. It's just me by myself. So I think just think about that. Think about who complements some shoots call for more assistance. Some shoots don't. There are some shoots that you're doing you can't do by yourself. You just can't.
Yeah. So many questions, especially from Logan. I might have to, you got a lot of questions there. I see rules, texture. I'm going to get to all those rules. Don't you worry, girl or boy. Sorry. Again, I'm blind. I know a boy named Logan too. Oh wait, it's probably Logan sending those. So what I have scheduled to ask you next is, so we've got the team, we know what we're doing visually, we've got the model, we've got the talent, location and equipment. Is that something that the photographer at the highest end usually provides, which is what I found? We're going here and you're paying for it. Or is there something else? Is there some rule, like if you have a 12-foot ceiling and a 12-foot wall, you're good to go? Is there some sort of benchmark for location and equipment?
There is no rule. It's just better to have more space. The more space you have, the better. You can shoot it in your garage. You can shoot it in your kitchen. You can shoot it in your studio apartment in New York or Tokyo. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just planning. So as far as equipment, you said, I mean, and also locations, everything usually that you see at NAHA is a studio shoot, but there have been people that have won on location and been finalists on location. So I would encourage everybody to start doing more location work because we see a lot of the same. So what I would encourage everybody to do, now this isn't just a location thing, do something different. Don't do the same stuff, same hairdo, same type of model, same makeup. Come up with something new. The judges are always looking for something new. So I would love to see shoots outside. I'd love to see shoots in a hotel room. I'd love to see shoots in a living, whatever, on an airplane. I don't know, whatever it is. Don't just do, I mean, I do mostly studio. The reason I do mostly studio shoots and shoots are easier in a studio is because you can control the environment.
Yeah.
So you don't have to deal with wind or the elements of any kinds. But if you can push it, push it.
Yeah.
It is more work to do it on location. It just is. So that's why I don't do it as much.
But sometimes difficult to deal with wind and change of lighting.
Yeah.
I am now sort of I'm seeing Logan. I see your name is at the top of all these. Thank you for sending me all these. We have a lot of rules questions. So since this is building your shoot, all those rules questions, we are going to be putting a fact page, including all of these and all the resources at probeauty.org/NAHA. We'll give you detailed explanations of those rules. There's some good stuff, especially like, you know, Photoshop. Yes, we are looking for you not to have a fully animated shoot. If it's hair, you can touch the skin all you want. Go for it. If it's skin or makeup, you can touch the hair all you want. But don't over manipulate the work so that it's being excluded from the competition, because chances are you put in the work, you did beautiful job, and you're only hurting yourself. Would you agree with that, Charlie?
Yeah, I think that people don't understand retouching hair. Retouching hair is allowed, but you can't create a hairstyle with Photoshop. If you have this, because what we all have been on set, and you've got an amazing, like say you've done a really precision haircut, and you've combed and combed and combed, and you're there every frame, and you just like this one frame, and it was not the best of that exact line, and there might have been one hair out of place. You can retouch that hair. It's not cheating. What do you do with 4 horns, and in the final there's 6 horns? That is not okay. That's the way I always describe it. If the hair is there, it is okay to have an errant hair touched up. If you have like a frizzy piece that was just on that one frame and you didn't catch it, you can retouch that. That's not a big deal. The problem is when you completely create a hairstyle in Photoshop. That's when there's a problem.
Lindsay is asking, now here you're talking about having blank page models. Is that because they're more open to what you need to do rather than the individual who has modeled before to avoid clash?
Really, I was saying that, yeah, they're open. A blank page model, somebody that's just starting out, is more open. And also there's a kind of model, I call them just hair models, that they're out there specifically promoting themselves and they like wild hair. Whereas if you have a fashion model that has lovely caramel hair and it's long and she's spent 3 years building up a portfolio and a client base, she's not going to want you to do a pink shaved side mohawk bob or something on her. She's not. So that's what I'm saying. It's not, and what I was saying about really seasoned models, a lot of times you're not paying them enough money to make them stay there for as long as you might have to on a NAHA shoot to get the shot. So in my experience, it's better to work with new people that are fresh, that are open and excited about the experience. Now, having said that, if I find a veteran hair model that loves doing it, fantastic. But I'm just saying, money-wise and make life easier for yourself, the newer girls are gonna. And the one thing I would also say about models is I love to meet models first in the casting if I can, so that I like her or him. If you have a personality clash, that is not what you want on a shoot all day, to spend that time with that person. I prefer people that don't need a lot of attention. Like the one thing I hate with a model is when they want to talk to me. Like I'm really into my prep. I'm really into doing hair, and they're like, so how long have you been doing hair? Oh my God, what did you do this summer? Where did you come from? What's your mom's name? Like, have you ever had the flu? I'm like, oh my God, I need to do your hair. Like I can't. So that's why I don't have, and the same with an assistant. Some people are like, I want to assist you and shadow you. And then you invite them to come, and then you're babysitting them all day and they're asking you 8,000 questions. Yeah. So I think that now some hairdressers love talking the whole time. I have friends that are hairdressers that want to talk and get to know every single thing about their model and their family and all that. I can't do that. I can't. So, I mean, get the model that works for you. If you're chatty and you love chatty, get chatty. If you're like me, then get a model that doesn't need quite that much stimulation. So just pick the right model for your personality.
So, unfortunately, we're almost out of time. And again, all the rest of the questions are all about rules. So, Charlie, I think a good question, sorry we didn't have time for the game, but there were so many good questions and so much important stuff to cover. Somebody is entering NAHA for the very first time. What do you have to say to them, Charlie?
Make sure that you know why you're entering. What would you like to have happen with the shoot, whether you win or whether you don't? Pick your category very carefully. And then I would say, make sure pick your photographer and your models strategically, because if you have a great photographer and you have a great model, you're almost there. I would also say practice your looks in advance. Practice, 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 so you don't freeze on set. And always have a plan B and plan C.
That is like the best. That is the synopsis all rolled into one. Exactly what I think people needed to hear. Charlie, one final question. What would you like to most be remembered for? You've done television, you've done fashion, you've done NAHA. What would Charlie Price like to be remembered for? Because you have a lot of fans watching right now.
The people that work with me, I don't have kids. I've dedicated my life to history, so I want to live on in the memories of people and to be like, Charlie taught me this curling iron technique, or Charlie always said, keep it soft, keep it beautiful. I just want people to remember me and love hair as much as I do.
I love that. And they love you, Charlie. Remember, everybody, folks, Charlie is a member of our NAHA committee and has been entering NAHA since the 90s and being nominated and winning. Please follow Charlie Price. Please go immediately to at probeauty.org/NAHA. We will get your rules questions answered in a fact sheet. We are also doing a resources list. Charlie sent us names of photographers, names of agencies. We're going to list all of that